Good evening, guys, and welcome to the January 13th business meeting. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are joined by 5 of our trustees, our superintendent of schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, Mr. Robert Haas, our assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Ms. Carrie Lachlan, our assistant superintendent for PPS and personnel, Ms. Emily Ekstrom, our district legal counsel, Mr. Edward McCarthy, our district clerk, Ms. Suzanne Benetti, and our student delegate, Ms. Kelly Bruckner. As always, there are 2 opportunities for the community to participate. The first is just before the board takes up its agenda, and the second follows the disposition of all agenda items. As always, if you'd like to speak, we ask that you come to the podium. You must be a resident or an employee of the school district. Any other person must be voted in by a majority vote. We ask that you keep those comments to approximately 3 minutes. As always, you can see in the back, we live stream and post everything to board docs, and you can follow the district at BBP School District. But at this time, before we pass over to Dr. Harney, we'll open it up to the community for any new or old business. Not hearing any. Dr. Harney?
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. So just a couple of quick updates. One, reminder to everyone that school is closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Day. So that's 1. 2 is next week at the high school we have the Regents Week, so just kind of pay attention to your schedules there for any students that might be taking any of those. And just kind of an update, next week we have 2 events going on Tuesday. And I sent, I guess, a flyer yesterday out on social media, and it's also going to come from the elementary principals, is next Tuesday we have 5 or 6 students from my superintendent council who are doing a presentation geared towards the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade parents on internet safety and social media, their perspective. So they're doing that, they're putting that together, so I'm looking forward to that. That is over at the public library at 6:30. So if you can join us, and it is open to anyone, but I'm just telling you that is who the audience is targeted for. So they've been working on that. And then next Wednesday, many of you obviously know we're working on updating our strategic plan. We had a tremendous turnout on the survey, which closed last Friday. So now we're just starting to gather all that information. And next week we'll do a community forum where we'll have about 70 people there from all various stakeholders, from our families to staff to students. So we're working on that currently. So that's kind of the things that we are working on right now. So that being said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bruckner.
Hello, Happy New Year, and I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. The 3 elementary schools and middle school would like to wish their communities a very Happy New Year, and we are very excited about all the wonderful things that 2026 will bring. The high school also wishes a Happy New Year to the Board of Education and our school community. January Regents examinations will begin on January 20th, 2026, and we will host our Course Expo on January 15th to support students and families with academic planning for the next year. Additionally, our senior students will be visiting elementary schools as part of a meaningful outreach experience and leadership opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bruckner. At this time, we're turning it over to our assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Ms. Lachlan, for our second budget presentation.
Good evening. So tonight is our second budget workshop in the development for the 2026-2027 school year. Tonight we're going to kind of go over how we develop the budget as a overall, explain what our timeline is, the roles of each person involved in it, and the decision points. Just demonstrate how we align the development of the budget with our district goals and student needs, as well as maintain fiscal responsibility, support transparency for the board and community, and then review the 26-27 tax cap calculation. As always, we always go back to our priority areas as we're developing budget. This is our key focus. We also look at our guiding principles, and we always want to maintain that we're student-centered, that we're looking and prioritizing the learning and well-being of all of our students, K through 12. We are working through our strategic goals, as Dr. Harney mentioned, and we are continuing to look at those as we're developing the budget to make sure that we're aligning our long-term plans for the educational purposes along with our financial. While maintaining fiscal responsibility, we want to make sure that we continue to maintain healthy reserves as well as positive budget spending. And then our transparency and community engagement, making sure that the public has an opportunity to see what we're doing and have a say in the budget development process. Our budget development begins in October. It is a year-round process. It's continuously moving, but we really start reviewing the prior year's budget and review of our district goals and enrollment trends and program needs for current year, and to look into what are we going to need for the future year. From that, we then start asking our administrators to develop their building level budgets. They work on that from November to December. This past year, they were due to me right before the holidays, so that is now complete. In December, I'm reviewing revenue, kind of going through all of our revenue codes for current year. Where are we landing? What are we projecting for the new year? And starting to financially plan out what the spend is in the new school year as we go through this development. January and March is really when we start rolling up our sleeves and getting into the actual development of our staffing. What is our enrollment trends looking like? What are we looking for class sizes? We're looking at our building requests at the district level, meeting with our principals to go through what they're looking for and what are their goals for the new year. We start out, as you know, our public presentations at the board meeting, and then in May is our annual budget vote. So what we ask of the board is really to provide high-level oversight and fiscal accountability of the budget itself. They're making sure that we're maintaining responsibility to our taxpayers. They're representing the community interest. They're bringing to us what they're hearing out there as they are community members. We're also relying on our Budget Advisory Committee and the board members involved in that committee to bring that information to us. And then in the end, the board reviews and approves the annual budget prior to the vote. With regards to community engagement, as you know, board meetings, public live streaming, we post everything up on our website. There is a budget page on the business office page. The Budget Advisory Council meets prior to each of our budget workshops to have a discussion about the budget and the development. And then we also like to provide for opportunities for community input through those various resources. So as I said, it is a year-long process. We're continuously working through a current year budget as well as starting the next year's budget at all times. Our decisions that we're making are based on the actual needs of the students while maintaining our fiscal responsibility. The board we do rely on throughout this entire process for input as we're making decisions at the administration level and bringing it to them. And we really want to make sure that we're transparent and that the community is well aware of the decisions that we're making going forward. So the first thing that we start working with is our property tax levy. As you all know, there is a cap in place. We use a formula by the Comptroller's Office. Final calculation is due to the Comptroller's Office by March 1st. We don't have all the information right now at this point in time, but we are using some estimates so that we can start planning. CPI is used in the calculation. That's what's capped at 2%. The actual levy for each district is not capped at 2%, but we do calculate where our levy limit is using that information. And then we also have capital exclusions that will impact our levy as a whole, and that's why you'll start seeing school districts have various levying amounts. So for us, our capital exclusions, just kind of want to break it down piece by piece. We have our debt service, which is capital projects that have been voted on already by the public and approved for payments that we're obligated to pay. We then also have our BOCES rent and capital expenditures that every district receives a portion of that, and BOCES gives us that information directly. Currently, we don't have the new year, so what is in there is prior year's number. We're waiting on the actual information for our calculation. We also then take into account prior year transfer to capital expenses and the projects that we anticipate using that money for in the new year. Currently, we have $633,000 remaining in the capital fund from prior years that we do anticipate using in July for, as we can't really get any more projects done now that school is full operation. 26, 27, at this point in time, we're budgeting for another $300,000 to transfer into the capital fund for future year projects. On the revenue side, from those expenses, we now deduct out our revenue, and that is our building aid that we're receiving on those capital projects that we have debt for. Again, this is an estimate at this point in time. State aid runs have not been received yet. We do anticipate receiving them next week. The governor had her State of the State this afternoon, and they are telling us that by next week we should have what our state aid runs are. So once we have that, we'll be able to lock in what our building aid is and reconcile that number. Our transfer to debt service, those are premiums received on prior year debt service, retirement of debt that can be used to pay down future debt, and that comes off as revenue. And then again, on the BOCES side, the aid that they're receiving on the capital expenses that we have, that we carry, so we'll have a portion of that. Again, that's an estimate as we have not received the number yet from BOCES. So when we take that and we look at the entire formula, you can see here everything that is highlighted are the estimates at this point in time. We don't yet have our tax-based growth factor that comes from New York State. Most districts have been posted, just checked earlier this afternoon, and our number is still not out. The allowable growth factor, that will be received later this week as well. That's CPI for the year, and that comes out January 15th. We are anticipating it being 2% as the year has seen inflation throughout the whole course of the 12 months. And then you can see over on the right is the calculation of the debt service and building aid, what our exclusion is, which carries over into the formula. But what you can see here is our bottom line is $61,902,000 is our levy projection at this point in time, and that is lower than what our levy is for the current year of $62 million. So it is about a negative 0.4% of a levy that we're anticipating for next year. We will update all this information at the next presentation as we start receiving all the final numbers going forward. So again, as I said, it is a negative levy that we're projecting for 26-27. As we're looking at preliminary numbers for the budget, we are anticipating that we may need to levy beyond what our allowable limit is. Even if we went to 0, that is beyond our allowable limit, we would require a supermajority vote at that point in time. But that final number is to be determined as we work through the budget process, and we'll continue to discuss that throughout each meeting as we go through the expenditure side of the budget. The tax levy review, as discussed back in October, will be done by our internal auditors. It has not yet, as we don't have final numbers just yet, but once we have all of those components finalized, we will send it to them prior to sending to the Comptroller's office. Our next budget workshop is January 27th, and at that one we will update the levy as well as go through all other revenue categories, but primarily review the state aid budget that we anticipate receiving next week. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laughlin. Any questions from trustees? Any community members? Thank you so much. Big round of applause. Moving on to consent agenda, are there any items the board would like removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Not hearing any, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items F through K? Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda, we do have 2 items tonight. Can I have a motion to approve a $2,000 donation from the Academy Street Elementary PTA for a school-wide community book club? Ms. Pignataro, second by Ms. Conley. As always, thank you so much. We appreciate the PTA doing this, and I know the kids will value this. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to our last item. Can I have a motion to approve policies 2350, Board of Education meetings, types, agendas, procedures, and minutes, 6600, fiscal accounting and reporting, 8650, school district compliance with copyright laws, and 9645, disclosure of wrongful conduct. Ms. Conley, second. Ms. Pignataro, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. At this time, we'll open it up to community again for any new business. Not hearing any, we'll open it up for any trustee new business. Thank you guys so much. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Conley. All in favor? Thank you guys so much. Have a great night, guys. We'll see you on the 27th.